So we have tables and grids I am in, and you should be on this page right here, and I need you to follow along as I read the story. Anne and her family hiked 1 5/10 miles daily. The coordinate graph below represents the number of days and the total number of miles they hiked. So now what we're doing is we see on our paper a table, a lot like the tables that we've seen in the pink and the yellow practice, and we see also a coordinate grid. So now what we're going to do is we're going to link the two together. We're going to use the information from the coordinate grid to fill out our table, and we're going to use the table information to help us make good predictions and information about our grid. Okay? So the very first thing that we want to do whenever we get a table is we want to acknowledge that sometimes it's not always going to be counting by ones. It could be counting by other numbers. So I want to go ahead and fill in those missing numbers. That makes it easier for me to locate where I am on the grid. So I'm going to fill in my missing numbers first. And you should be doing that too. And then over on this side, I notice that the y-axis, which is perpendicular to the x-axis, is missing some numbers also. So I'm going to fill in those missing numbers. Now some people like to go ahead and label where these points are on the graph, and if you would like to do that, you could go ahead and do that first.
Where are you?
Like so. And then that makes it a little bit faster for filling in our table over here. So if I'm going a little quick, you can go ahead and pause the video and fill in your paper. But right now, I notice that the number of days is going to be my x value, which is always my first number on my coordinate grid. So I have the number 2. It's partnered with the number 3. That's my y coordinate. I have the number 4, which is partnered with the number 6. I have the number 6, which is partnered with the number 9. And I have the number 8, which is partnered with the number 12. So now that I have that information, the next thing I would want to do is be looking for that relationship. What is that relationship from my x value to my y value, which is what we've been doing the last couple of days in math. We've been finding relationships between data. And so I'm going to go back up to my story, and I'm going to think to myself, how is 1.5 related to the number of days and the total number of miles? And so when I think about taking the number 1.5 and doubling it, I'm going to try that out right here. I end up getting 10, and 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 more is 3. So we end up getting 3. So this works. So I'm going to try it out again to make sure that it wasn't just a one-time deal. 1 5/10 times the number 4. That's 20. Carry your 2. 4, 5, 6. Bump your decimal over. That is also 6. And then I'm just going to go ahead and prove the rest of my table. Proving your answer ensures that you aren't making any mistakes. So 6 times 1 is 6, plus 3 more is 9. Bump over your decimal 1 place. And 1 5/10 times 8 is going to be 40, and 12, and we bump over our decimal. Alright, so now that it looks like our rule is really multiply by 1.5, I'm going to circle that this is a multiplicative action, a relationship, and I'm going to use that to write my rule. Whenever we write our rule, we want to start with our y, because I have noticed that every time we see some kind of rule written, they start with y equals. So we want to be consistent with that. So what is it that we're doing to get y as our answer? We're taking our x value and we're multiplying it by 1.5. So the correct way to write that equation would be 1.5 times x. So now if I want to substitute 1.5 times 0, because now 0 is x, what would be that y information? Well, anything times 0 is going to be what? 0. So our y coordinate is going to be 0. And the next thing they want us to do is plot that on the graph. So I'm going to go over to my graph. I'm going to find 0, 0, which happens to be the origin. That's right. That's what this is called, the origin. And I'm going to put it on the graph. Now, one thing that I have noticed is that when I connect these dots and it's multiplicative, it's always going to go through the origin. So I'm going to write that down. Multiplicative relationships always go through the origin. Okay? All right, I'll see you back for the next page.